I still keep the napkin she handed me that night, folded inside the drawer where I used to keep birthday cards. It sits beneath a stack of old envelopes I have not opened in years. Every time I reach for something else, my fingers brush against it, and I remember the way her hand shook when she passed it to me across the table. That was the night I stopped pretending I did not know. The party was supposed to be small. Just family. Just the people who had been there long enough to know better. I turned 70 that October, and my son Marcus insisted we celebrate at the house in Detroit, the same house where I raised him and his sister. The dining room still had the same long table we bought when he was 12. The walls still held photographs from decades I could barely recognize anymore. I remember standing in the kitchen that afternoon, watching my daughter-in-law Vanessa arrange flowers in a vase, and thinking how careful her hands were, how deliberate every movement seemed. She had always been careful. I did not know then that careful people are often the ones carrying the heaviest secrets. Hello and welcome. If this is your first time finding your way here, my name is Dorothy. I am 73 years old, and I have lived long enough to learn that some of the quietest moments carry the sharpest turns. If you are here listening, you are already sitting with me. This little space is where I share stories the way they come back to me, slowly, honestly, one memory at a time. Some of you listen with coffee nearby. Some of you press play late at night when the house finally goes quiet. I hear from people in many different places, some far away, some closer than you might think. Wherever you are right now, you are welcome here. If you decide to stay, you can follow along so you do not lose this place. And later on, if you feel like it, you can leave a few words about where you were when you listened. I always read them. Now let me tell you what happened. The dinner started the way these things always do. Too much food. Too many voices trying to fill the silence between courses. My daughter Celeste brought her husband and their 2 boys, and they sat near the window where the evening light came through in long golden strips. Marcus sat at the head of the table, the way his father used to, and Vanessa sat beside him with her hands folded in her lap. She barely touched her plate. I noticed that first. Not because it was unusual, but because I had been noticing small things about Vanessa for months. The way she checked her phone during conversations. The way she smiled without her eyes changing. The way she looked at Marcus sometimes like she was trying to remember who he used to be. I had convinced myself it was nothing. Marriage changes over time. People grow tired. People grow quiet. I told myself these things because mothers want to believe their sons married well. And I wanted to believe Marcus had chosen someone who would stand beside him the way his father stood beside me for 38 years. But doubt has a way of building slowly, like water behind a dam you do not know is cracking. We were halfway through dessert when she stood up. The room went quiet in the way it does when someone moves without warning. Vanessa pushed her chair back slowly, and the legs scraped against the hardwood floor. She looked around the table, and I saw something flicker across her face that I had seen before, years ago, in women who had run out of choices. She said she could not do this anymore. Her voice was steady, but her hands were not. She said she had been trying to hold it together for the sake of the family, for the sake of appearances, but she was losing her mind. She said she was done pretending everything was fine when it had not been fine for a very long time. I remember my grandson asking his mother what was happening. Celeste put her hand on his shoulder and told him to stay quiet. Vanessa said she was cutting ties. She did not say with who. She did not say why. She just said the words and let them sit there in the middle of the table, like something that had been waiting years to be said. And then people started nodding. Not everyone, but enough. My daughter looked down at her plate. Marcus sat frozen, his fork still in his hand. One of the neighbors we had invited, a woman named Sherry who lived 3 houses down, nodded slowly like she had been expecting this. That was the moment I understood. They had all known something I had not. I do not know how long I sat there before I spoke. It felt like minutes, but it might have been seconds. Time moves strangely when you realize you have been living inside a story everyone else already finished reading. I looked at the faces around the table. Celeste would not meet my eyes. Her husband was staring at his wine glass like it held answers he did not want to say out loud. The boys were confused, shifting in their seats, waiting for someone to tell them it was okay to leave. Sherry, the neighbor, was watching Vanessa with something that looked almost like sympathy. That bothered me more than anything else. Sympathy meant she knew. Sympathy meant she had been part of conversations I was never invited to. I turned to Marcus, and I kept my voice low. I did not want to shout. I did not want to make a scene. I just wanted him to hear me. I asked him if he really thought I would not find out. His hands started trembling. Not a little. A full shake that made him set the fork down because he could not hold it anymore. He opened his mouth but nothing came out. He just stared at me like a boy caught doing something he swore he would never do. Vanessa's voice cut through the silence like glass breaking. She shrieked. She asked what I was talking about. She asked what there was to find out. I did not answer her. I kept my eyes on my son, because it was not Vanessa I needed to hear from. Marcus had always been the kind of man who could talk his way out of anything. Even as a child, he knew how to smooth things over. How to make you believe him even when the truth was standing right beside him shaking its head. His father used to joke that Marcus could sell water to a river. But that night he had nothing. He just sat there, his hands shaking, his face going pale under the dining room light. I reached into my purse and pulled out the napkin. It was plain white, the kind you get at diners that wipe clean tables and serve coffee that tastes like it has been sitting too long. Someone had written on it in blue ink, just a few lines, nothing dramatic. But those lines had names, dates, amounts of money that did not make sense unless you knew what they were for. I had found it 3 weeks earlier, tucked inside a jacket Marcus left at my house after helping me move some furniture. I had not been looking for anything. I was just checking the pockets before I hung it up, the way my mother taught me to do. And there it was. At first I thought it was a mistake. A receipt. A reminder. Something innocent. But then I saw Vanessa's name next to a date from 2 years ago. And I saw another name I did not recognize. And I saw a number that matched the exact amount Marcus had borrowed from me that same year. The money he said he needed for car repairs. I had given it to him without question. He was my son. That is what mothers do. But after I found the napkin, I sat at my kitchen table for an hour just staring at it. I traced the handwriting with my finger, trying to make it say something different, trying to make it mean something other than what it clearly meant. I did not want to believe my son had lied to me. I did not want to believe the money I saved from years of working double shifts at the hospital, the money I kept in case of emergencies, had been used for something he was too ashamed to tell me about. So I waited. I carried that napkin in my purse for 3 weeks, and every time I saw Marcus, I waited for him to tell me the truth on his own. He never did. The napkin sat on the table between us now, and no one touched it. Vanessa leaned forward, squinting at the handwriting, and I saw the exact moment her face changed. She was not confused anymore. She was afraid. She asked Marcus what it was. He did not answer. Celeste, who had been silent this whole time, spoke up. She asked me where I got it. Her voice was careful, like she was trying to decide which side of this she was supposed to be on. I told her I found it in her brother's jacket. I told her I spent 2 weeks trying to convince myself it meant something other than what it clearly meant. I told her I called the number written at the bottom. And a man answered who said he had been waiting to hear from Marcus for months. That man told me everything. He told me Marcus had been moving money for Vanessa's family, helping her brother avoid taxes on a business deal that went sideways. He told me Vanessa knew. He told me they had used my loan to cover part of it, and when it was not enough, they borrowed from other people, people who do not forgive debts easily. He told me Marcus had been lying to me for 2 years. And Vanessa had let him. The man on the phone had been calm, almost polite. He said he understood family situations were complicated. He said he knew Marcus was trying to fix it, but time was running out, and people were asking questions he could not keep answering. He said Marcus owed him $12,000. The car repair loan I gave my son was $4,000. The rest came from somewhere I did not want to think about. When I hung up the phone that day, I sat in my kitchen until the sun went down. I did not turn on any lights. I just sat there in the growing dark, thinking about all the times Marcus had come by in the last 2 years. All the times he smiled and asked how I was doing. All the times. He sat at this same table and let me feed him and never once told me what he had done with the money I worked so hard to save. The table went so quiet I could hear someone breathing too fast in the corner of the room. It might have been Marcus. It might have been Vanessa. I do not know. I looked at my daughter-in-law, and I asked her if she was really losing her mind, or if she was just losing control of the story she had been telling. She did not answer. Instead, she grabbed her purse and walked out. No explanation. No apology. Just the sound of the front door closing, and then her car starting in the driveway. I watched through the window as her taillights disappeared down the street. Part of me thought she might come back. Part of me thought she would turn around at the corner and realize running was not going to fix this. But she kept driving. Marcus stayed. He sat there, staring at the napkin like it might disappear if he looked long enough. The other guests started making quiet excuses. Sherry touched my shoulder on her way out and whispered that she was sorry. I did not ask what she was sorry for. I did not want to know how long she had been carrying that sympathy around. Celeste gathered her boys and told them to wait in the car. Her husband mumbled something about calling later and slipped out the side door. My daughter stood in the doorway for a moment, looking back at her brother, and I saw something in her face I had not seen in years. Disappointment. She left without saying goodbye. Finally, it was just me and Marcus, sitting across from each other in the house where I used to read him bedtime stories and teach him how to tie his shoes. The silence stretched long enough that I could hear the old refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I could hear a car passing on the street outside. I could hear my own breathing, slow and steady, while his was still uneven. He said he was sorry. I did not respond right away. Sorry is a word people use when they do not know what else to say. Sorry is what you offer when the damage is already done, and you are hoping it will be enough to stop the bleeding. He said he did not know how to tell me. He said Vanessa's brother was in trouble, and she begged him to help, and he thought he could fix it before anyone found out. He said he thought he was protecting me. I let him finish. I let him say all the things he had probably been rehearsing in his head for weeks, maybe months. I let him explain and justify and try to make sense of something that would never make sense. And when he was done, I asked him when lying became protection. He did not have an answer for that. I told him protection is what you do when you tell someone the truth even though it is hard. Protection is what you do when you ask for help instead of pretending you do not need it. Protection is not taking money from your mother under false pretenses, and then letting her find out from a stranger on the phone. Marcus put his head in his hands. His shoulders started shaking, and I realized he was crying. I had not seen him cry since he was a boy, since the day we buried his father, and he stood beside the grave trying to be strong for me. But this was different. This was not grief. This was shame. I got up and poured him a glass of water from the kitchen. I set it in front of him and sat back down. I did not touch him. I did not try to comfort him. Some lessons require sitting with the discomfort until it changes you. He asked me what I wanted him to do. I told him I wanted him to tell me the truth, all of it, and then I wanted him to fix it. Not for me. Not for Vanessa. For himself. Because a man who lies to his mother will lie to anyone, And eventually, there is no one left to believe him. He nodded. He said he would. He said he would pay me back every cent, even if it took years. I told him I did not care about the money. Money can be replaced. Trust cannot. I cared about the fact that he thought I was too old, or too trusting, or too much of a mother to see what was happening in front of me. We sat there for another hour. He told me everything. How Vanessa's brother had gotten involved in a business deal that sounded legitimate, but was not. How the money disappeared faster than anyone expected. How Vanessa panicked and begged Marcus to help because her brother was the only family she had left after their parents died. He told me he borrowed from me first, because he thought it would be enough. When it was not, he borrowed from friends. When that ran out, he went to people he should not have gone to. He said he was trying to dig himself out, but every time he got close, something else went wrong. I listened. I did not interrupt. I did not offer solutions. I just let him say it all out loud, let him hear his own voice telling the story he had been hiding. When he finished, I asked him if Vanessa knew what tonight was going to cost him. He said he did not think she cared anymore. That was the saddest part. Not the lies. Not the money. But the realization that somewhere along the way, my son had married someone who was willing to let him drown if it meant she could stay dry. That night, after he left, I sat alone in the dining room and looked at the table still covered in half-eaten plates and cold coffee cups. I thought about all the birthdays before this one, all the dinners where everyone smiled and pretended and played their parts. I thought about how easy it is to miss the truth when you love someone. And I thought about the napkin, still sitting in the middle of the table, and how something so small had unraveled everything. I picked it up and folded it carefully, the way you fold something you know you will need to look at again. I put it back in my purse, and later that night, I placed it in the drawer where it still sits today. It has been almost a year since that night. Marcus did pay me back. It took him 9 months, but he did it. He picked up extra shifts. He sold his truck and bought something cheaper. He called me every 2 weeks to let me know how much he had saved. I did not ask him to do that. But I think he needed to. I think he needed to prove to himself that he could keep his word about something. He and Vanessa are still together, though I do not see them as often as I used to. She does not come to family dinners anymore, and he does not talk about her much when he visits. I do not push. Some things take longer to heal than others, and some things do not heal at all. I do not know if they are happy. I do not know if they are honest with each other now. That is not something a mother can fix, no matter how much she wants to. What I do know is that Celeste calls me more often now. She stops by on Sundays sometimes, brings the boys, lets them run around the backyard the way Marcus used to when he was small. She does not talk about that night, but I can see it in the way she watches her own children, in the way she corrects them when they try to hide something small. She is teaching them what I thought I taught Marcus. Maybe I did. Maybe he just forgot. Or maybe some lessons only stick when you learn them the hard way. I still keep that napkin in the drawer, folded beneath the old birthday cards and letters I have not thrown away. Sometimes I take it out and look at the handwriting, the numbers, the names. It reminds me that the truth does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes written on something small, something you almost throw away, something you find when you are not looking for it. And when it does, you have a choice. You can pretend you did not see it, fold it back up, and put it away. Or you can set it on the table, and let everyone see what has been hiding in plain sight. I chose the table. And I would choose it again. Because silence protects the wrong people. And I am too old to protect anyone except the truth.